Hey everyone, it's another edition of Unbreakable Spirits. It's a weekly sports edition. Talk a little bit about local sports, national sports, and so sit back and relax and let's talk about sports a little bit. First, the Phillies. They're on a roll. They're really playing good baseball lately. They're in Oakland. They won the first game last night. Um, they should win the next two games the way they're playing. Even though they have a bullpen game today, um, they're playing very well. And the big thing is the week ahead. Um, the Phillies could put themselves in position to make a run at the Braves. Still 8 games behind the Braves, but they have three with the Braves at home this week and three with the Mets. The first time their rivals are coming into Philadelphia this season. So uh, Phillies could make some hay this week if they stay hot. Um, One thing to remember about the Phillies is they have 19 home games in August. So they have a lot of home games back logged into their schedule this year. So after the trade deadline, they have a bunch of home games coming up against beatable teams. I mean, they have St. Louis coming in. They stink this year. Kansas City, they suck. We have played Washington 2 times in August. Minnesota's a decent team. The Angels are a decent team. The Giants are actually playing very well out west. But it's definitely a winnable schedule. So Phillies play well. The rest of the month, July, let's see what the trade deadline brings. Speaking of which, there have been rumors about Paul Goldschmidt, who's the reigning MVP of the National League, being traded by the Cardinals because it doesn't look like the Cardinals are going anywhere this year. So they may want to unload Goldie. He would look great in a Phillies lineup. Imagine Goldie hitting cleanup, Harper third, Turner second, Short first, Wilson, Bogue, a murderer's row. But even though Goldschmidt would look great in a Phillies lineup, and he's a Gold Glove first baseman, and that happens to be a position that the Phillies need to fill. But a couple problems. If you trade for Goldschmidt, what are you giving up? I would think St. Louis is going to want a bunch of young players. I would definitely not give up Andrew Painter. He's only 20 years old. He could be an ace for the staff. Hopefully, these elbow issues will be resolved maybe this summer. Even if Painter doesn't pitch for the rest of the season, you want him healthy for next season. I definitely would not trade Andrew Painter. What about one of the other young pitchers? McCable, with Gary? Oh, possibly. You know how young pitchers are. Look what happened when Phillies traded Sixto Sanchez, the prize prospect with the time. They were 100 miles an hour. Supposed to be this big stud of the pitching staff for years to come. They traded him to Miami for JT Realmuto. Well, we see what happened there. Sixto, I believe, is still hurt, and he's hopefully getting over his shoulder problems. But that's the thing with young pitchers that throw really hard. You just don't know. So would it be feasible to trade an Abel or a Gary for a package for Goldschmidt? Sure. The Phillies need pitching now. I like Goldschmidt. I would love to have Goldie on the Phillies. He's 35, so you got to figure maybe he only has 2, 3 more quality years left before he starts declining. But the Phillies are in a win down mode. Dave Dombrowski is here to win with the Phillies. He has a history of trading prospects away for established stars to get teams over the hump. And this may be the case as well. The Phillies on their farm really don't have that many position player prospects. So I would say St. Louis is going to want pitching. They're going to want young pitching. So I would be hesitant what you give up. As I said, I would absolutely not give up Andrew Painter under any circumstance. So I hope Dave Dombrowski is wise enough not to do that. So otherwise, we'll see what the Phillies do around the trade deadline. They definitely, whether they get Goldschmidt or not, the Phillies definitely need more pitching, preferably a starter. With what's happening today, another bullpen game. When the Phillies reach that number 5 starter slot, they tend to lose. That's do most teams. They have to find a way to fill in that 5th spot. I mean, look at the rotation right now. Taijuan Walker is pitching better. He pitched a great game last night in Oakland. Aaron Nola is up and down, is up and down. You never know what we're going to get from Nola. We'll talk about him in a second. Zach Wheeler is pitching pretty well. He's a horse that we can probably count on for the rest of the summer. And so Ranger Suarez is back, and it looks like he's pitching well again. We need a 5th starter around that rotation. So Aaron Nola, we know that he is going to be a free agent after the season. Rumors are he's looking for a contract somewhere around the $200 million mark. Well, that's not going to happen with the Phillies. I would say a contract, maybe $100 million for 5 years, 4 years would be more in line. I look at it this way. Aaron Nola really has never reached his potential. I mean, I thought of Aaron Nola as the guy who would consistently win between 15 and 18 games a year. But the good part about Nola is he pitches in his turn. He rarely gets hurt. He doesn't have arm problems. He maybe a little fatigued, along with Wheeler, because they did pitch deep into the season last year, into the World Series. So it may have taken him a while to get back on track this year. The other thing you have to remember about Aaron Nola is he's a warm weather pitcher. He loves the hot weather. He's from Louisiana, and he loves the pitch when it is hot and muggy outside. So you have to remember that. So far this spring in Philadelphia area, it's been nice. It's been beautiful. It's been on the cool side, dry but cool. We haven't had that many hot days. Really no heat waves. The humidity has been down, continues to be down. And here we are, June the 17th, and the weather was beautiful. It's almost like April. So maybe once we get into July and August, Aaron Nola will step it up. Now, his history is actually where he doesn't pitch very well going into September. Is it because the weather gets cooler? Or is it because he wears down? I know it's a worry to me to give him a big contract like that. But who's going to replace him? Now, the Phillies do have pitching prospects on the farm, as we've talked about. That's the one thing they do have. Could they step up and fill in for Aaron Nola? possibly. If you're not going to re-sign Aaron Nola, you know you're not going to re-sign him. Should you trade Aaron Nola at the trade deadline? If you do that, are you sending a signal that you're giving up on the season just when the Phillies are playing better ball? I mean, I don't know if you're going to catch Atlanta for the division title. It would be nice. That would assure them a home playoff series. But the Phillies are definitely in contention for a wild card spot. And once you get in, as we saw last year, anything can happen in the playoffs. So it's sort of a tricky situation. Do the Phillies sign Nola now? Do they let him become a free agent during the offseason and sign him during the winter? Do they trade Aaron Nola, hoping to maybe re-sign him after the season, get some prospects for now? Certainly, the Phillies could use some prospects to reload the farm system. I had a question that I wouldn't want to do Dave Degrassi and have to address all those questions, especially about Aaron Nola. The other thing I was thinking of about Dave Goldschmidt, kind of the message does that send Reese Hoskins? I mean, are we betting on re-signing Hoskins after the season? It's going to be a free agent. I would think that Hoskins is going to look for a one-year contract to prove himself, to prove that his knee is healthy. And then, if he has a good year next year, get a bigger contract. Another free agent. We don't know. I mean, are the Phillies interested? I would be interested. I mean, we see how much the Phillies have missed Reese Hoskins in the run. Sure, he's below average at first base with the glove. We know that. But he is an RBI guy, and he'll give you 30 home runs a year. And when he gets on the streak in the middle of the lineup, he's a force to be reckoned. So that's another question. If you bring in a Goldschmidt now, you're not just bringing him in for the rest of the year. You're bringing him in for a few years. I mean, so what kind of message does that send Hoskins? He's been with the club lately. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's a great guy. And he's just adding to the winning culture of the Phillies. Bringing in Goldschmidt, would that mess up the chemistry? I don't know. I mean, as I said, the bottom line for me is I would love to have Goldschmidt if the deal is right. Otherwise, I want to focus on pitching, especially starting pitching at the trade deadline. I still feel the Phillies have a real shot, especially with all those home games coming up after the All-Star break. They have a real shot to get back into the playoffs again. But let's not poo-poo that. I mean, up until last year, the Phillies had not been in the playoffs for 11 years. So it is an accomplishment. And as we said, we can see what happens once you get in. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out down the road. Other things in baseball we've talked about, the division races. We can go over them really quickly. And at least we know the Braves are still on top. The Braves are not invincible. But the Braves have been having problems with their closer situation. They have a lot of kids they've brought up to fill the rotation because Max Fried is still on the shelf. Braves are really good. And it seems like they bring up these players from their farm system and they fit right in. Look at Spencer Strider. Great young pitcher. And some of their position players, Harris in center field. But they're not invincible. And the Phillies proved that last year in the playoffs, beating the Braves. in that best-of-5 series. So, I'd say one team that is really tanked is the Mets. I mean, they are just going down the tubes now. They're behind the Phillies. I don't know whether they have enough to make a challenge to the Braves either. Miami's playing good ball. They won again last night. They're 2 games ahead of the Phillies in second place, and their young pitching is coming through. They have a nice, exciting young line going too. And we talk about the NL Central. How about those Cincinnati Reds? An exciting young team. They brought up David Cruz. He looks to be a real player, power, speed, 5-10 player. He's going to be exciting to watch his moves go by. Cincinnati is tied for the division lead right now with Milwaukee, who I don't believe it. I'm not a big Milwaukee fan. Pittsburgh has been in there ever since the season started. We're still tied for first. Are the Pirates going to have enough to stay in there through the summer? And look for the Cubbies. Cubbies are in 3 games off the pace. They're lurking there behind all these other teams. And I think the Cubbies have a solid team. I wouldn't be surprised if they get in the mix too. Cardinals are surprised at how poorly they played. With all that talent, with Arenado and Goldschmidt, I'm surprised because St. Louis seems like they're in the hunt every year, but not this year. In NL West, surprising Arizona Diamondbacks. We know the Phillies just beat them 3 out of 4 in Arizona, which was a big accomplishment. Usually the Phillies have problems out in Arizona, not this year. And the key there is the Phillies took this by winning 3 out of 4 this week in Arizona. The Phillies took the season series over the Diamondbacks. Important because if a wild card chase, if it comes down to a tiebreaker situation, the Phillies would have the advantage over the Diamondbacks. So important that they took that series and took the last one. AL, we have Baltimore playing well, but Tampa Bay is still on top and hanging in there. They need to go wire to wire. AL Central, Minnesota, it's a very mediocre division. Most of the teams are below 500. I would think Minnesota's going to have one. I'm a big Cleveland fan, and certainly Detroit, but the White Sox aren't ready to win the thing. AL West, the Rangers are playing well ahead of the Astros. Surprisingly, the Angels are only 3 games back. Lurking. Any team with Trout and Ohtani, you have to get on. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Angels caught fire and maybe challenged for that. But we'll see. I think the pennant race is going to be fascinating this year again. We've got teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees who are not in first place as we speak. So we have a lot of upstart teams like the Reds, like the Diamondbacks, who are playing really good ball. Let's see if they can hold on. Basketball. Do we want James Harden now? Personally, I don't want James Harden. A lot of people have said on the radio, well, then who? If you're going to not re-sign James Harden. First of all, I think the Sixers will re-sign James Harden because their general manager, Daryl Morey, loves James Harden. It's true. James Harden led the league in assists last year, but we all saw that James Harden is not the player he once was. He had some good games in the playoffs, give him credit. He had some bad games too, especially the last 2 games of that series against Boston. I don't want him back, mostly because I don't want to tie up all that money and give him many years of a contract. I look at it this way. James Harden, is he going to get any better? No, he's going to age more. He's already breaking down. He's not the player he used to be. He's very slow. When James Harden has the ball, it's dribble, dribble, dribble. He's a turnover machine. He doesn't have the burst to the basket that he used to have. And I don't think he's as good of a shooter as he used to be. I think the Sixers offense should run through Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. I get it that some people want to trade Embiid and really lay down like a dog in that Boston series. Is he a winner? I don't know. That's hard to say. I don't want to. In one way, I get it that Embiid, his value will never be higher than it is now. He's going to be older. He's going to break down. He gets injured every year. And right now, coming off of an MVP season, if you're going to trade Joel Embiid, now's the time to do it. Sixers don't have draft picks. They lack enough cap space. Trading Embiid. He's a drawing card for to get people to come to the game. He's an exciting player. He's a great player. But is he a winner? Is he going to get the Sixers past the second round of the playoffs? That's why I don't want James Harden back. You're going to run this back again? We already seen this movie before, haven't we? They can't get out of the second round. So you're going to do the same thing over again? It doesn't make any sense to me. I would let Harden go. Daryl Morey needs to get a little creative. He needs to start earning his money as a GM and find an alternative to James Harden. Sixers really, really need a point guard. Tyrese Maxey is not a point guard. He's a short shooting guard. But Sixers need someone who will handle the ball and who will give the ball to Tyrese Maxey to run the offense along with Embiid. The thing about Harden, which I can't stand, is he's so slow. He slows everything down. He slows the offense down. He's not good on defense anymore. Slows the offense down. I think the Sixers should be a team that gets out on the break, runs more, you get easier baskets. Seems like when they set up in half court, it's a challenge for them to score sometimes. They really work too hard with James Harden to score. I just think the Sixers need to get out on the break more often to get easier baskets for everybody. It looks like Harris will be back this year. Tobias Harris is just, I don't know. Well, to say he's overpaid is an understatement. But regardless, this is his last year before he becomes a free agent. I would, looks like you're going to keep him unless the team will take him off of your hands. I mean, he is what he is. He's really an inconsistent player. I mean, you need him to step up. He hardly does. He did at times in the playoffs against Brooklyn. He did at times in the Boston series, but consistently, night after night, are you going to get 18, 20 points from Tobias Harris? And there's times, especially at the end of that Boston series, where he disappeared. He takes one shot a half. I mean, that's ridiculous. Sixers need a point guard. You need a power forward. You need wing guys to get killed in the forward position. And they still need a lot of help. They need bench help too. I'm not crazy about the bench. So how close are the 76ers to winning a championship? To me, they haven't gotten down in the second round. They haven't even reached the conference finals to be talking about a championship. I don't think they're that close. That's why I wouldn't bring James Harden back. I would keep Tyrese Maxey. I would build around him, and I would try to bring some more athletic younger players onto the team. We've got PJ Tucker, Tobias Harris isn't getting any younger. Got enough older players on the team. You know? So let's see what happens. The time is coming now that the finals are over. The draft is coming up this Thursday. Will the Sixers make a move? It'll be interesting on draft night. The Sixers really don't have that much to trade, but let's see what they do. You know, now's the time. We're coming up to the time where James Harden and the 76ers need to make a decision, especially James Harden. You want to go back to Houston? Is Houston really offering you a big contract? Or was that a ploy by Harden's agent to get more money from the Sixers? I wouldn't blame the Sixers for not giving them that deal. Don't give them 4 years, 5 years. Don't even give them 3 years. I would even be hesitant about giving them 2 years. I might sign him for a year to hold the gap. You know, I don't even want to do that. I really don't want Harden to, but if you had to sign him for a year, I guess that's okay. That's our sports wrap up for this week. Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you again soon. Take care.